Okay, so this is project for industrial building in Kingston for Ministry of Transportation, and this is going to be a horror movie. This building has burned in the past. So this is what's happening in the inside of the building, right? And the main issues which I can see in this building is, I'd say, roof structures, right? So the roof structures got compromised in areas where flame was the most, and that's where the mezzanine floor is. So the railway road behind that wall, that's there, and in front of it, that's where the street is. Okay, so what we're going to look at is in this mezzanine floor, we see concrete flooring, most likely, right? So, what comes to my mind is that while this one had like a somewhat timber, somewhat light truss type of flooring system, as soon as flames started burning, that has collapsed. Right over here, it didn't collapse at all. Right, so and that's why it was it enabled the flame to affect the roof structures most. So we need to pay attention to mostly where the purlins are, and the other purlins which are holding the wall. Over here we have like a one column that way, and we have another column there, and between there is a steel beam. That steel beam is substantially bent, and that bent most likely pulled that column back here, and over there column that way, right? So it's also tilted that way. I have a picture with degree, right? Majority of other columns don't seem to be like too bad. They are pretty much vertical. So these are pretty plumb as well, as we can see, right? So one of them has a little bit of a dent, but I don't think it's gonna affect the performance of that column. So structural steel constituting the beam in the middle has collapsed, like I said before, due to fire. All right, and the fire didn't have enough time to affect too bad. But what we need to have a look at, where we have like an open area, and not likely conflagration was in this area based on what I see. The condition of the purlins is quite intact, and we can say like they are not deformed, they are not bending, they are not, nothing bad is happening to them. In this area, they are pretty much all pretty screwed up, right, and require replacement if we want the building to be safe, right? So even bracing in between also kind of collapsed, right? So over there, underneath mezzanine floor, there is another room which is called kind of reception or whichever else, right? That one has not been affected by the fire, all right? And probably the reason behind is because over here we have concrete block retaining wall. This window is not affected by the fire because there was no conflagration, because there is no floor in place, right? So mezzanine floor in place. But where it is, especially in those windows over there, right, it doesn't look good at all. Right. However, if we go inside, it's not so bad. All right. So over here we have like beams and windows and everything else. It is damaged, but it's not kind of structural damage which is caused by conflagration. All right. So my point is that it needs to be repaired, but it doesn't have to be replaced because. In here especially, right? So it doesn't have to be replaced because I think it's still okay. All right, so let's have a look and not go too far in there. So it's somewhat okay in here. The toilets there are okay, and over here we have residue of the conflagration because we had like a window and opening which were affected, but where the ceilings are and everything else, it's not that bad. There was a smoke in here, obviously. The toilets, showers, right? So over here, it's more right now like a cleaning project, including this type of steel to be cut and removed somehow. all the burnt timber and everything else, right? Yeah, so what else I noticed in here in terms of structures? All right, so we will get to that point in a second. Yeah, all right, so we have portal full moment portal frames coming up in there, and they are supported by the columns every second span. Over here we have single span. However, what I noticed, over there we have a beam supporting the rafters, which are not supported by the column. Right over there we do have column, but we don't have beam. So the presence of that column is probably justified, and as long as it's sitting on the concrete block retaining wall, and concrete block retaining wall doesn't have evidence of substantial damage, I think it will be okay, but it has a dent in it, right? So what we need probably to do is to restrain between probably this column and that column, so it doesn't go any further, right? Somehow, right? So that should help to keep it in place. So the rafter themselves don't seem to me kind of too much damaged, as well as the columns. The columns I measured, they are quite plumb, and I took picture along them to see if there is a vertical deformation in there. I didn't notice any. Right, so they are okay. And I looked at the structures of the columns and beams which were not affected by the fire closer to that space. All right, and they seem to me pretty much the same as everything else, except evidence of the smoke and burning products and stuff like that. All right, so yeah, so the purlins there, damage to purlins and the roof sheets is thermal, right, resulted from conflagration and flame. All right, so the it needs to be probably replaced. On this side roof though, it doesn't look so bad. But I would recommend to ask a roofing company to have assessment on the roof itself. Right, purlins from structural point of view on this side more or less okay, and I would say probably okay up to 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5th purlin here. All purlins that way, I think, would have to be removed. And as long as we remove all these purlins, so the sheets would have to be removed as well. Maybe it does make sense to replace the entire roof. All right. So the purlins on walls, right? So where that elevations are, they are looking like this, made of Z channel. All right, so where they are not affected by the fire, they are fine. So along this side, along that side, along this side, it's okay. Along that side, I think they all needs to be replaced as well, because they are affected by the fire. Right, and once the facade, roof, and everything else is reinstated, I think this building should be fine for storage kind of facility, right? But once cleaning is done, all right, so the steel fabricator who's going to install new purlins and new wall sheets and stuff like that, they would have to come out and inspect all the connections. Right, so the connections I'm talking about, like over there, for example, it's bolted connections. So somebody on scissor lift would have to get up, check all the bolts and see how it's going. All right, so because the steel itself, it's like pretty thick material and will very difficult to affect even by the fire, right? But the bolts are smaller and they get hot faster than the beam itself, right? And who knows what is happening there. But the connection is, I have to give respect to whomever designed it. It's pretty smart connection in there. All right, so it's also helping that this is kind of full moment connection, and looks like building performing well we have like full moment connection in the basement level, and we don't have cracks which would suggest that there is a structural performance issue. We have full moment miter connection in there with the flanges. We have like a full moment bolted connection in there, and we have full moment fully welded connection in the apex of the structure. So that tells me it's not so bad. Right, so the elevations here are not affected by the fire, so they are all okay, not deformed, all good. But in that area in there, most likely everything needs to be replaced. All right, so that's what we're gonna do in our recommendation. So if we have a look quickly here, so we see like all the pipes are burned. Right, so this one is not so well visible, but it's bad, but this is the situation here. So this is the picture I wanted to show, that in some places the beams which are connecting column to column in here, they are bad. Right, so it needs to be probably replaced. There is no way we can save it, and probably that's where maybe fire started and it gets pulled in, and that's why it's bent. All right, and once it's all removed, maybe the rest would have to be inspected as thorough as this one, and that should be yeah, but still fabricator. I don't think I need to come here again. All right, so okay, and that concludes our presentation. Any questions, refer to the report. Any further questions which are in the report, call us, and we would be happy to go over any other issues you may have. Thanks for watching.